You unveiled.
Unveiled. Okay, so at the end of December, Baba had finished his account of creation. You know, creation cosmology means prananakash and light and ocean and bubbles and knowledge and ignorance and all of that. And then there's this mystical astronomy stuff and evolution. So we've looked at that. When Baba got to reincarnation, he basically said hardly anything at all about it. There's a little bit, I don't want to exaggerate, but I'm going to jump right over that, because that topic is covered much more fully in other books than this one. But then he started to get into the spiritual path. And he introduced a distinction that he never did again in any of his later books, between the planes and the skies, or Osmonds. That's the word he used. And skies too. He used the word skies a lot. So you got those two parallel systems.
Yeah.
And this diagram shows it a little bit. Once again, remember there are always keys, and the key regularly shows one of our sources. Often there's more than one, but we picked the one that we thought would be most illuminating for one reason or another. But remember that there are more, and there's a section at the back of the book called Notes on the Figures that goes through all of the sources. And on the Trust website, we should have pretty soon all of this online if you want to see sources for this, diagrams. But anyway, so there's a kind of parallel. Actually, I'll go back to the previous one to show this point. It shows it better. This diagram, Baba kept giving out this diagram in different forms time after time. So there's a diagram in God Speaks very much like this, actually. But here you see stone, metal, vegetable, worm, fish, bird, animal. These in God Speaks are called the kingdoms of evolution. Until human form is achieved, the seventh cardinal form, he calls it here, and you have achieved complete consciousness in the human form, finally. That was what evolution was trying to do. But there's a veil of sanskaras. That's the problem. So involution is the path of getting rid of those sanskaras again. We had an earlier diagram here illustrating that, where here the sanskaras are winding and here they unwind. You have to get rid of those sanskaras on they call it the real path, the ulat path. Ulat means reverse, because you have to reverse the process of binding that happened in evolution. You have to reverse all of that. All those sanskaras have to be unwound that have been wound previously. So there's a parallelism and some kind of symmetry between evolution and involution. That's a topic that would be worth exploring all in itself. But anyway, what Baba really has to give here is this new information that there are, in addition to the planes, which would, okay, this is going down, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh plane. But in addition to the planes, there are these adjuncts or associated domains that he calls skies or Osmonds. And they're related to the planes, but they're different from them. And Baba tells us their names, their Persian names, and goes through them one at a time. and says a little bit of what each of them is like and what it contains. So again, these are not the planes, these are Osmonds. But like the first plane has an associated Osmond. The second plane has an associated Osmond.
What is the ramp?
Huh?
What is the ramp on second, between the second plane and the sky?
Okay, I'll come to that in a minute. The Osmonds have sections, and the number of sections varies from one Osmond to the next. So the first Osmond has 3 subdivisions. The second Osmond has 2. The third Osmond has 3. He gives names for these too. The fourth has 1 only. Yeah.
Are these like the heavens on each plane?
In a minute, I'll say what Baba says about them. You could use the word heaven in a broad way, but strictly speaking, heaven and hell are here in the second Osman. But broadly speaking, I guess you could say heaven. But skies is the word that Baba uses. So the fourth has just 1, and the fifth and sixth he doesn't say, he doesn't tell us. And here's these colors. There is a reference to the topic in a diary called the Combined Diary. And there, Baba says what the colors of the Osmonds are. So the planes are colorless, he says, but the Osmonds have colors. So the first is blue, the second is yellow, the third is red, the fourth is white, the fifth is black, the sixth is green, and the seventh has no color. And he also gives this information that the first 3, the Osmonds and the planes are far apart. But there's a sharp curve in the path in the fourth plane. I don't know. I mean, if somebody has experienced it, please explain. But that's what he says. There's a sharp curve. And from the fourth plane, the Osman and the plane are very close to each other. And fifth and sixth, as I say, he doesn't give us that information about subdivisions or anything like that.
What purpose the skies are serving?
Okay, here's how he describes them. The purpose they serve is to be as a distraction.
That's true.
So if you're going through the spiritual path too quickly and you want to sort of slow down and have a nice sidetrack, you can go into the Osmonds, and that will tie you up for a bunch of lifetimes. That's just true. Baba gives an analogy, and it's a great analogy. You know, in those days, when they traveled, they would go travel by train, right? Any distance. That was the standard way of traveling. So Baba says, if you're traveling by train from Ahmednagar to Bombay, the planes would be like the train stations, right? The station itself. And the skies are like the villages or towns or cities if you leave the station. So they're linked, they're very much linked. But the thing is that the skies are so utterly beguiling and intoxicating. The thing is the skies are absolutely perfect to intoxicate you and to ensnare you where you may be in the path, because they only come inaccessible to you when you are prime suspect, prime culprit, to be grabbed by them. So if you go into them, almost for sure you're going to get caught in them. And you get caught in them and you forget where you're going. You forget about the path, you forget about the spiritual journey, and you just start to enjoy the Osmonds and the states of these Osmonds there. Now, Baba brought up this topic to these boys and didn't bring the topic up again that I know of. He didn't bring it up when he was, he hadn't explained about musts yet at this time. But when he did talk about musts, he didn't bring up the topic of Osmonds. So this is just a guess. But it sure sounds to me like that's where the musts were. They got off the plane, got caught in the Osmonds, and were intoxicated there, and couldn't leave and didn't want to leave. That's a guess, you know, but it sure makes a lot of sense there. So Baba spent about 4 or 5 lectures going over this. And this is a diagram that, we created basically. The sources, diagrams become very sparse in this latter part of the lecture series. There are hardly any, like we have this. These are just little scrawled things in the margins, hardly, you know, even readable. But, so Nadia and I created this on basis of these lectures, what Baba says in them, just to be a roadmap to help readers in the thing. And all of this verbiage that you will find in this chart is from the lectures. I mean, we didn't invent any of it. So this could be helpful when you're reading this section of what these Osmonds are like. And Baba gave the Persian names for them all. He says Persian, but the words are largely from Arabic.
Sufi term.
Hmm?
Aren't they Sufi terms? Arab?
Well, okay, but I mean, I think most Muslims, and these words are kind of
They are Arab.
basic words
Yeah.
that, you know, in Islam would be used.
That's true.
I did ask, I gave this whole list. You know Carl Ernst, some of you?
Yes. Carl
Ernst, a great, he's a Baba lover, and he's one of the leading Sufi scholars in the world right now. And of course he knew all the vocabulary. These are standard words, but he said he hadn't seen a system like this anywhere that he's aware of. So this is out there for anybody. You see, the individual words you'll find, but this list of 7 in this order. So anybody who wants to plunge into it, I don't know, Ibn Arabi, or I don't know who would be.
What is it?
Who is it? Bazayed? He has a journey through the 7 planes, but did he name them? I don't know. Maybe somebody could check. So this is, he was a perfect master, by the way, and he's famous for having journeyed up to the 7 heavens to Allah. So the first sky, or Asman, is called the Alam-e-Vaktiya, the world of the moment. The manuscript, one manuscript, all of them say, the first sky or Asman is called the blank. But one manuscript had these names written in the Gujarati script. I mean, it's really, these manuscripts are really quite a trip, I'll tell you. So, you know, we transliterated and then figured out what they would be. So we don't even know what language, he says Persian, but I don't know, maybe whoever was with Baba, it might have been Urdu, it might have been Hindi, the Hindi redaction of these. I don't know if Ghani or somebody knew, Ghani probably knew Arabic, but most of them have known Arabic in this. I would think if you got a good Quranic education, you would know that much Arabic anyway.
Those are, you know, Persians can understand those too. I mean, there are both Persian, Alam, and Vak is both also Persian. So it's kind of a combination of the whole.
This huge mass of Arabic vocabulary became part of the Persian vocabulary.
That's true.
Because of
Ever
the
since they
Quran.
attacked Iran.
Yeah.
No, ever since they
And a lot of
attacked
it went right into Urdu, and a lot of it went right into Hindi, too.
Yeah.
So, a lot of this. But anyway, it says Persian, that's what the manuscript says. The Alam-e-Vaktiya, the world of the moment. And I always like to mention a great Sufi, Kushairi is his name, 11th century, who wrote a very famous treatise on Sufism. And he goes over a lot of the really key Sufi terms, and I'm really impressed by this guy. He really was remarkable in his approach. I mean, he looks... Huh?
Bushevi? What was the name again?
I may say it wrong. Kushairi. Q-U-S-H-A-I-R-I. Kushairi.
Kosari.
Kushairi.
Yeah, it's Kosari.
Yeah, I
and
mean,
it's
if you look it
spelled
up,
that
it'll
way.
certainly... It's one of the most famous treatises on Sufism. And that section is not very long. If ever the Baba world wants to branch out and study some of these other traditions, that would be really high on my list. Because I think a lot of what Sufism really illuminates is the states and experiences of the path. They really have a vocabulary for that you won't find in. And this is fantastic. I mean, I read it and I think, who was this guy?
Yeah.
His insight. So his first term is Vakt, the moment. And it's really quite a really insightful discussion. Anyway, I'm just struck that he began there and Baba did too. The world of the moment. The second sky or Asman is called the Alam-e-Ruhani. Ruh means something like spirit or soul, like that. The world of spirits. These are, I'm reading it because these are actually beautiful, aren't they beautiful names?
It also means, Alame Rohani, I would think it's a spiritual world.
Yeah.
So sometimes
Spiritual.
Rohani is used as a spiritual.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I know Ruh is a big word in religion and Sufism too. And
word, does subdivision of each one of these sky could come to play when we are...
Yeah, we'll get to it.
Okay.
We'll get to it. Baba goes into them, the subject. He gives Persian names for some of them and others he just describes them.
Okay. So
The third sky, or Asman, is called the Alam-e-Quds. Quds is the pure world.
yeah.
You know, there are these, Muhammad spoke of the most beautiful names. What's the phrase? I've forgotten the phrase for it. The most beautiful names. He said there are 99 of them. And this Quds always gets listed as one of the most beautiful names.
Quds also could be, the synonym for Quds could be the heaven, Behesh. Sometimes.
That's actually in the second sky, as a matter of fact. By the way, Muhammad said, when I look at Baba lovers, I think, yeah, you're right, Muhammad. He said, God loves odd numbers. Now, wouldn't you agree with me? There are a lot of odd numbers. Maybe that accounts for us, huh? Yeah. So the fourth sky or Asman is called the Alam-e-Mahfuz, the protected world. Isn't that
Very
interesting?
nice. Very
Because
cute.
that's the place of danger, actually, the protected world. The fifth sky or Asman is called the Alam-e-Asrar. Isn't that beautiful? The singular is seer, a secret. Yeah.
Are the names supposed to be seductive too?
Actually, they are.
You're getting lured into them already.
Maybe you're already experiencing Asman.
Aren't they beautiful names? I think
They're
they're
very
beautiful
beautiful.
names.
Oh,
Asra, seer, a secret. So a
Yeah.
fifth plane,
yeah.
he looks and sees the secrets behind everything.
Yeah.
That's why, like, Anayat Khan, he's fifth plane, people like that, they can't really talk to us because we're such dummies, you know. They'll just say what we can understand, but they always know the secret seed that gives rise to the illusion that we see. The sixth planar Osmond is called the Alame Janani, the world of the beloved. Finally, you start to love. This is the beloved is there everywhere. The veil is lifted. The seventh sky or Osmond is called the Arshe Mu'alla, the throne of God, the throne of Allah, because you're God realized now. That's where the throne is. So those are the names Baba gives right at the start. And so like this diagram contains all of this. We just put it in so that it was easy to, sort of a cheat sheet. You can see it. And another thing that this shows that lectures describe is this, that if you travel with a guru, a sadguru, a master, he takes you by the way of the plains. Now, from the plains, you can see the Osmonds at a distance, far off. You get a view of them, but he doesn't let you go there. You just have to look at it from a distance. It makes me think, these people on the plains, are such great souls, but from his standpoint, I imagine they're kids. And they say, oh, let's go there. Oh, can I buy this? Can I? You know how kids are. That's probably just what these musts are like, I bet, to him, They can't resist it, and they start running away, and, you have to drag them back. So the master doesn't let them enjoy it. But if you go without a master, you go via the Osmonds. So that's what this shows. The traveling with a master is that road, and it's much faster, much faster. Traveling this way, you probably get stuck in every... This is saying Osmond, but I think these Osmonds are much vaster than our world is. Think about what in our world has California, and though you may not know it, there are places outside of California. You could always go to New York.
But do they really count?
But you could always go to England, or you could go to France, or you could go outside the West. You could go to Saudi Arabia, you could go to India, China, you could go to the ocean, you could go to Antarctica. Think of how big our Earth is. Well, I think each of these Osmonds is much vaster, and the stuff there is unimaginable. Yeah, did you want to say something?
Yeah, with the master, you go through the plains and you go directly to the God realization. But then, why the creation has to have all these skies?
Yeah. Baba didn't give us a why.
Fantasy world, I guess.
Baba didn't say why, no. He just said that they're there.
They are there. So sometimes maybe the master should stop in the, second plane and say, go have fun and come back.
It's great, except you come back 2,000 years later. That's the problem. Yeah.
I was going to say that the reason it's there is that, it's a shadow of the infinite, so the shadow is also infinite or even a little bigger, right?
Yeah.
So that's why it's there.
Right. It's a natural, it must be a natural emanation. Okay, Baba doesn't say this, so this is just my thought on that. I think there's a relationship of Pran and Akash to these two, where Akash is a shadow of Pran, and this would be correlating to Pran, and this would be correlating to Akash. And I have a reason for saying that, but this is just my thinking, right? Baba didn't say that. I think it's probably true, though. I actually do think so. But, we haven't really talked about this. I always wind up not talking about it adequately, but when Baba started getting into this section of his lecture series, he kept saying, you have to turn. That is, you gross conscious kids, you have to turn. You have to turn to get onto the path. And he didn't, I'm trying to think, did he ever exactly define it? I don't remember, but he might have. But what it obviously seems to mean is turning from your obsession with the outer gross world to which you are bound by your sanskaras and turn inward. And he said a master can be the key to your turning. It's the master who can bring this to accomplishment. Yeah.
So isn't that where in God the series here talks about it, that when you know, you go
That
to
seventh chapter where you have to go in through the mouth. Yeah, it sure sounds like that to me. Almost for sure it's that. Because you have to stop looking out, and when you go in through all these openings in the face, then you see the veil, and then that gets lifted on the sixth plane, and then you see God face to face. So it makes me think that this is God Speaks Now, our human faces are the wrong way. They project outward. You have to, I don't know, like one of these Hollywood movies where somebody suddenly knock their glasses off. You go like a mask and you turn around the other way and you're looking inside.
Would you do me a favor, next time you're gonna do one of those demonstrations, warn me so I can take a movie out of it. I'm always too late.
Take a clip from Charlie.
There you go.
Oh, that's right, Charlie's better.
You know, one time I asked Erich what Ghani was like, and after telling a lot of stories, Ghani said, Ghani was the very living personification of what we should not be. So if you take the film, you could say, this is what turning is not.
We all need a contrast.
Bob, I loved him so much.
Oh, he did. So this is, but after the turning, there's the route of traveling with the master or traveling without.
So the question is that if you are with a master, is he also involved in the turning? Looks like he is, right? Or it could
Well,
go either way. I don't
Fourth
know.
plane, the turning happens on fourth place, on fourth Osmonds.
Well, there's a curve there, but there's a critical turning to entering into the path at all. I don't remember whether Baba actually says that you always have to have a master to do the turning. I don't remember. I mean, it could be that a master is indirectly involved and just does it and then goes off somewhere. I'm sure there's every kind of thing in the inner path, I'm sure. But here's another feature of these Osmonds. You'll notice the diagram illustrates this. Remember, we did the diagram. We tried to illustrate what the lectures say. The planes are connected, right?
Yeah.
Like railway stations are connected. You just get on the train and go on to the next station. Well, the Osmonds are not. The subdivisions within an Osmond are, but they're not connected to each other. So you actually can't advance from them.
Interesting.
You have to get back to the plane to go on. Yeah.
That's why you could.
You remind me something that I read from him. He says, if you are traveling with me as a master, you go on the train non-stop.
Yeah.
But if you are traveling without me, you go elsewhere. So I never kind of catch the full idea of
Right.
instructions.
Yeah, I mean, you get into here and you actually can't go move.
Yeah,
You don't know how to get out of there.
forever.
I'm sure it's very confusing, you know. Even if you say, I am trapped, how do I get out? It's probably not obvious at all. Yeah,
And
Elaine?
I'd like to share something.
Let's let Elaine, yeah.
After.
Yeah.
If you're, I don't know if it's, anything was said, but if you're working in the skies, in the first sky, and then you want to advance and get over to the first plane, does it mean that you've already finished the full first plane, you can go on to the second? Or do you have to go through the whole first plane?
I don't know. I don't know. Baba does say this, though. The last subdivision of the sky is virtually the same thing as the first plane. So, yeah. So, I mean, you LA people need to use your resources. We need somebody who's done this, you know,
That's right.
who
Some
can
of us
answer.
have gotten lost along the way.
Yeah, yeah. We don't want somebody who's done the planes. It's like we want to find out what's in all the stuff.
So one time, just I'd like to share this with everyone. One time we actually, when Esfandiar was here for 5 years, perhaps this was his last trip, we went to Myrtle Beach with him, a few of the LA people. He actually invited us, and I was there with my little son. He was only 12 months or something. But anyway, in one of his meetings, this is what I like to share. In one of the meetings in Del Ruba, that he was delivering his talks in Del Ruba in Myrtle Beach, and Farshid Namiranian was the translator. He was translating. Toward the end, and this was at the end, not toward, at the end, Esfandiar said, if anyone, knowing where he was, he probably knew what's going on, but he said, if any of you here in these meetings who are in plane of consciousness and you're stuck, you can't go any further. You're stuck for any one reason or another. I'm here to help. So just make a private appointment and just come and see me one-to-one. I'll help you. I mean, in a way, I'm thinking, well, they're all working for Baba. It doesn't have to be sad.
Yeah,
but there is that.
Esfandiar was, one of the people who had experienced a lot of this. Whether he experienced the Osmonds or the planes, I don't know. He would have heard this lecture. I could have wanted to kick myself for not having asked him about this when he was alive. But I don't think he would have remembered exactly. He would have known from his own experience, but I doubt he would have remembered these talks.
He was actually, my experience, he was even selective about answering some questions or not.
So here's another thing about traveling via the Osmonds versus traveling through the planes, and this is new. We haven't heard this before. He said when you travel through the Osmonds up through the third, at death you fall back to gross consciousness. In your next lifetime you have to start over. So he calls this yoga brashta. Elsewhere he used that term with a different meaning, but that's what he calls it here. But he says that in your next lifetime you do get an opportunity again to turn and to advance through the planes. So you get an opportunity to recapitulate the progress of your last life, but you do fall back. So you've got to do it over. He says if you're traveling with a master, by contrast, you don't fall back. And you, in your next lifetime, you resume from where you were, right from there. He also says if you're traveling with a master, by the time you get to the fourth plane, you'll get reborn in the fourth plane. In one lifetime, you go all the way to the seventh.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think he says exactly without a master, but I bet it takes a lot longer than that.
Could you say that again?
Yeah,
From the fourth one?
If you're traveling with a master, let's suppose you died in the fourth plane. You get reborn there without having to recapitulate, and in one single lifetime you go all the way to the seventh plane. Now that seems like a lot of progress to me. That's a lot of, fifth and sixth planes, these must be unimaginably vast. He didn't say exactly what happens if you're without a master, but my impression is you'd probably spend a long time in the fifth plane. The sixth plane, if you die in the sixth plane, that's your last life. You get mukti in it. Yeah?
How can you die in the fourth plane if you can create worlds?
Well, apparently it happens. Yeah. Universes, you can create universes. It's possible that maybe on the fourth plane you can make your body last a long time, I suppose.
Could be misusing your power.
Yeah, but that might be a misuse of powers, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. There was a fourth plane yogi there's a perfect master named Gyaneshwar. Do you know him? He was 13th century Maharashtrian. He lived not far from Mehrabad, about 60 miles or so. And he was a perfect master. At about 9 years old. And a brother was a perfect master. And another brother was, I think, a Jivan Mukta. And a sister was a six-plane saint. Talk about nepotism! But there was a fourth plane yogi, a very famous story, who heard about him, who was really pissed off that this 10-year-old should be such a hotshot. So he went, famous story, he went to see Gyaneshwar to challenge him to a spiritual fight. And he was riding on a tiger with a cobra on his shoulder. And Gyaneshwar was sitting with his hotshot siblings on a stone wall. And this great yogi is coming to see us. We have to come forward to greet him. And the whole stone wall walked forward to see him. And the yogi realized that though he could master a tiger and a cobra, this kid could even make inanimate objects walk. So he became his disciple. And he was 1,400 years old. That's why I brought this up. So maybe it happens sometimes, I don't know. He wound up getting God realized after this. That's what they say. So, this is a vast arena, and I'm sure there are so many secret truths. Maybe you have to go to the Alam Asrar, find somebody, the realm of secrets, who could explain a lot of these things.
But Ward, it seems so simple. I mean, there's plan A and there's plan B.
Right. Right.
That's right. Always go with plan B.
That is, until you get going on plan A with the master and suddenly, Sam, come on in.
Come on over.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the level of temptation, I think, is unimaginable. Yeah.
It almost makes me feel like Bob was like, enough of you souls have been wandering the saunas too much. You all need to know this information. Like, be with the master.
It does seem like that.
Yeah.
I mean, this is information about the spiritual path I've never seen anywhere. Already with God Speaks, but this gives a whole new dimension to it, doesn't it? Really? Yeah.
I was going to ask if you know of any other, previous Advents have referenced the Osmonds.
I have never seen this anywhere. But of course, there's a huge spiritual literature. I mean, these are things that people can. Okay, I'm up here talking because I've been working with this manuscript for 25 years, but I'm just one person, and now it's there for everybody, so people can go and explore.
I was just reading about Aurobindo, that he traversed probably the Osmonds, if not their plane, to get to
The sixth
seventh
plane.
Yeah, because he went through the planes alone.
Yeah, without a
Alone
master.
without a
Yeah,
Until
Baba
the
said
seventh
that.
plane when Baba
Yeah.
made him perfect.
Yeah,
Lord, have you read anywhere, you probably have, Baba, when he talks about a master, he doesn't say a living master, right? I mean,
Yeah. Let's refer that topic until later also, because it's a huge one. But it's not an important question. It is an important question, but it would take us too far from this book.
okay.
But what Baba kept saying to these boys, relevant to this, is you have a living master right in front of you. Don't waste the opportunity. Take it. And that could be generalizable. If you meet, okay, I'm not looking for a master. got one, but
Well, I got one too, I just wanna be sure. All
Yeah.
these people who come into my life aren't masters that I'm saying, no, I got one already.
yeah.
You know?
No, it's a big topic, but Baba was really stressing, don't miss this opportunity, it will never come again. It's very hard to find a living master, and you got one. Me, Baba didn't hide that at all. He told them that, right straight front. He even would say, create love, create prem, but then he would say, love me. He would say that too. He wasn't bashful about the role he was offering them. These were special, this was a special bunch of kids.
And when you say living master, but he also said he was still playing that role
The eternal,
now.
the eternal living
He
master.
is a living master still.
Yeah.
For me, he is.
Yeah.
For me too, I just sometimes
Yeah.
worry.
Yeah. We can tell them.
Yeah, let's, so I want to stick to our book, because this is a huge topic.
Yeah,
Black
sure.
and white. I mean, we're skimming over things we could spend really a long time on any one of these points we're covering. So when the book is there, it's there to be delved into. So then Baba starts to, let's see, what is our time looking like?
15 more minutes.
I think we'll use some of the beginning of the next session, more on this. I was going to spend some time on those 6 lectures to the Mandali, and I'll spend a little while, but actually, those are very worthwhile. Let me not disparage them. But these are something special, really. He starts going into the planes then, like right here, just to show you what it looks like in the book. So here he starts going through the subdivisions of the 7 skies, right? So the first part of the first sky retains its connection with the outer world. That is when one who lives in that world gets turned. So this is an example. It keeps hammering that point home. He sees the first part of the sky. The same sky is what you see in your dreams.
Oh my God.
So this is consciousness of the dream state, right there. Jumping to the next one. In the second part of the first sky, one sees light globes. So this is a clear indication these light globes are not gross. They're inner worlds, right? Remember the light globes that the earth is the shadow of. If a spiritual pilgrim has been turned by his guru, in that light globe, he sees the real form of the guru. Guru Svarup. Svarup is the real form. But those who have turned without the guru's help see the light globe only. Right. Okay, here we have being turned without the guru's help. I forgot about this. So you can do it apparently. But what kind of light appears to them? The light of the light globe is colorless and dazzling. That is why those traveling without a guru stop here. Also, the spiritual pilgrim hears the Anand Nad. Anand means bliss, and Nad means sound. You start to hear a sound, an unimaginably wonderful sound, such as we could have no idea of. So this is the second part of the first Osmond. You know, that's the thing. I mean, in our culture today, you know, somebody has a buzz from the astral. I won't be that quite so disparaging, but has some kind of an experience and they think, I saw God. Well, it's sort of an overwhelming experience to them. But it could just be the very fringes of the path. The world has no idea what the inner worlds are like. And that is, I think, one of the things that Baba is helping with. He's really giving us a picture of the whole thing. The third division of the first sky, for all practical purposes, can be thought of as the first sky proper. Who was asking about this? About Elaine, were you asking about, do you have to go through the first plane? Well, maybe you do it here. I don't know. I'm very solidly entrenched, a strong citizen of the gross plane. So I myself,
You never know.
I'm going to be there forever.
No.
I'm caught in the Osmond of the gross plane. So I don't know about these things myself.
What does it mean by, I'm sorry, sky proper? Proper, what does it mean?
Well, it's
Sky
like,
proper.
you know, it's almost the same thing as the first plane.
I
Means
see.
that,
Okay.
basically. It's hardly, the distinction is almost nominal. Of which divisions A and B are, as it were, outskirts. Here, see, he's giving you an idea of it. You see, when you talk about subdivisions and stuff, I mean, I bet you have to go there to know what it's like. And he's giving imagery, so he's saying like the outskirts of a town, and the third subdivision, it's like you're getting into the real thing. Here, the spiritual traveler acquires the power of reading minds of others.
Wow.
Also, he can see things far off. I think elsewhere Baba gave an example, like if you wanted to see the top of Mount Everest or the bottom of the ocean, you could. You can just, through this spiritual power, you can actually see it yourself.
First plane, you can have a power of reading the minds of others?
The third division of the first Osmond,
Oh, first Osman, I meant.
which is getting practically to the first plane. Also, he can see things far off. But remember this, those minds, whose minds can he read? Only those who are in the ordinary gross world, and among these, only those who are physically present.
Oh, Baba is so cute. He's got his humor there too.
And the first guy
Rabbis is worthless, right?
cannot even read the mind of a man in the first or second part of that same sky. So if you're in the third part of it, you can't read the minds of the first and second part. And though he can see long distances, this sight extends to the gross world only.
I see.
It's sort of kind of embarrassing that all these people can read our thoughts. I wonder if you can get, nowadays, buy some kind of a shield.
Aluminum foil. Hats.
Okay, there we go.
But what's the use? It's all illusion anyways.
Well, now that, we're, with all this technology, we can have a subtle shield. Works all the way to the first subdivision of the third Osmond. Nobody can see you. Beyond that, we haven't worked out the technology yet. Okay, so this is the first guy, and then he says, I'm just giving you a taste of this,
Sure.
There's a lot more to, but as he's beginning, okay, there's a rain shower, I'll skip that. Okay, where was it I wanted to read? Yeah. Okay, now the second plane, I won't try to read anymore because we I don't think we have the time for it. But I'll go back to this diagram. Again, this diagram is meant to be helpful as kind of a synopsis. The two main subdivisions of the second Osman are Nark and Svarg. These are the Hindu terms. In the Islamic, it would be Behesht and Dozak. In English, it would be heaven and hell. So after death, that's what this shows. The outer world means the gross sphere, where gross conscious people have their consciousness. But after death, oops,
Well, tell us something.
a bit of a hawa there.
Can you just move it over that way?
That's, your third eyes feel okay? This one just got knocked off.
Yeah, it is about that.
So, gross conscious people after death experience the heaven or hell state. And it's actually situated here in the second Osman. Now, Baba doesn't discuss this, but it must obviously be true that when you start to experience heaven or hell, you're so absorbed in your own, subjectivity and your own retrospective review that you're not aware of your environment. So it's not like you're conscious of the second Osmond or anything. You're just totally self-absorbed at that time. But somebody on the second Osmond would be aware of this. He doesn't quite describe the experience, but I imagine probably someone there could actually see a lot of these souls having their experiences, of self-absorbed reflective review. So both heaven and hell are there. And Baba gives some illustrations of the experience. He said, like if you eat, he uses the word malida. That's a candy, sweetmeat. She has Zoroastrian. Do you have that in Iran? India, it's a sweetmeat. And he said it's the most delicious malida you have ever, better than, it's kind of interesting, isn't it? The food, you think food is gross, but apparently you can have these experiences in the heaven state. Whereas if you're having the hell state experience, you eat it and it's narc, shit. Shit. Yeah. And he says if you have a appetite for singing, you can hear singing, but then Baba says, but real quality, really good singing. Sometimes people have been inclined to observe that up at Baba's Samadhi, the singing, certain people give you a lot of spiritual training. But,
you need a good patience.
Especially the long.
Yeah, but in the heaven state, it's beautiful, gorgeous singing. So he gives those illustrations. But then Baba says, remember that all of this is for a period of time only, proportionate to your lived experience. Also, like he said, malida, that sweetmeat, well, you experience that if you have the sanskaras that would attract you to that. You don't experience anything that's irrelevant to your sanskaras. But
so
when,
it explains here, I was going to ask, sorry to interrupt, if you have a flash from bad actions and good actions, same color to north and sword from outer world. So would they, our action, let's say I'm in second plane, experiencing the second sky. So would the bad action or good action evokes the experience in second sky, or?
What this was meant to signify was gross conscious people having their heaven or hell state experience after death.
I see.
And it's, you could say, located there. Baba does say that here's the difference. They experience it without a gross body. But somebody who's advanced on the second Asman would experience it with a gross body, in their gross body. Their gross body is back on the gross sphere, but they still have that. He also says that you can't voluntarily experience hell. He does say that. Interesting point. Yeah.
Like wandering around in this sky, like, being a moth. Baba didn't go after the moths in like lower skies, like, because whatever moths he was, discovered or said, they were like in fifth and, the fourth and fifth and sixth plane.
Well, there are a bunch in the lower. There are a lot of musts in the lower planes too.
But did Baba contacted them too?
Oh yeah. Most of them were there. Only the really great ones were like the higher planes. They were rare. Again, Baba didn't talk about Osmonds or planes. Osmonds, when reference to the must. I just want to emphasize that this is speculation, although it seems very probable. But to speculate further, I would be inclined to guess that Baba helped them get out of the Osmonds and back onto the plains. That seems like a reasonable guess, because from there they could progress, whereas from the Osmond they couldn't. Let me see. Oh gosh. Okay, we have about 2 minutes, and then it's time.
Can we talk about that?
But I think lunch here at Mirabode would be like the pure heavenly version. It's the most exquisite sandwich in your whole life. But if you don't like it, that means that you're one of these. It's your bad actions and you're going to hell. So this is the test. I'll tell Lois this. If anyone complains, it means they're going to hell.
What about that white stone? Is that that's the fourth
That's
right?
fourth plane.
And
But let me
if you go
just
up-
mention the third
yes,
first, and maybe
please.
that would be our
I'm sorry.
last thing for
Yes.
this morning. Okay, you see, the book is really worth reading. I'm telling you. There's all this stuff.
I couldn't agree with you more.
So here, he does give them names. The third, now, again, it's hard to, I just want to say, when you're moving like from the first to the second or the second to third, you think, oh, second to the third. You're moving to a realm of light that is unimaginably brighter than the last one was. I mean, I'm just guessing, if you're in the third Osmond, the second, oh God, that was just so dark down there. I mean, that's nothing. That's probably how it seems. You could not have imagined what it was like. You probably fall in I think it does happen. Actually, the fana, I think, is that you're stunned when you enter into a new thing. But the first one, the first division he calls, it's interesting, he'll use a Hindu term and he'll also use an Islamic term. Indrapad, the place of Indra. Do you know who Indra was? He was in Vedic Puranic lore, he's the king of the gods, the king of the devas. If you heard of Deva, Devi. If you know Greek mythology, Zeus and Hera and Aphrodite and Apollo, it would be like that. So these are angelic beings of a very high order. And the Islamic term he gives is Maqam-e-Huri, the station of the Huris. They found their way into Arabian Nights, so the Westerners know them too.
That's right.
And the second division is the Maqam-e-Qudsi, the station of purity. And the third one he doesn't describe by reference to who's there, but knowledge. There's a lot here about knowledge here. Remember those three things, light, ocean, and knowledge? Throughout this, knowledge is a big theme.
Yes.
So here, Antargyan, that's a, Indic, Hindi, Gujarati. Antar means inner, and Gyan means knowledge. And the Islamic word he uses, Khud Shanaz, knowing, and Khud is the false self, ego self. Later, when we move up, we'll get to Khuda Shanaz, of God, knowledge of God. And at this state, you can read the minds of anyone, anywhere in the subtle and gross worlds, up to the third plane. So again, when somebody starts going into creating subtle sphere technology, when you can make the shield that shields off those third planers, man, everybody's going to buy it. Okay, well that's, I think this afternoon we'll resume with some of this, and that'll be our last session.
Thank you.
Okay.